Welcome, everyone. This is Geek'd in Shreveport 2023. I am Uncle Nasty. I'm your moderator here for this panel room, and we have a special guest that is about to take the stage. There is a smorgasbord of fans worldwide that absolutely love these movies and anything that has to do with this, the books, the video games, lifelong fans. You never grow out of something like Harry Potter. Y'all give it up for Mr. Sean Biggerstaff, Oliver Wood.
Hey. Yeah, brother. So is Uncle Nasty a name you use specifically for stuff like this, or?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And if the police ask. All right, you guys out there in the audience, my panels are super easy. I'm going to ask him 2 simple questions, and then it is your guys' turn to ask the hard questions. Are you ready to get this started, brother?
Don't feel like that's a challenge. You can ask easy ones as well if you like. Yeah, let's go for it.
All right, the first easy question is, how does it feel to be here in Shreveport at Geek'd 2023?
It feels great. It never gets any less strange or amazing to 22 years after the first movie came out, still be asked to come to things all over the world. I've seen a lot of cities and a lot of countries that I wouldn't have seen otherwise, and it's a great privilege.
That's awesome. All right, second easy question. What does it feel like to have what I would call die-hard fans?
I don't know, really. I mean, it's less intense than it would be if it was for something like that I'd created, because I'm such a kind of small part of such a big thing. I don't know. Yeah, it's not too overwhelming because it's like, the passion is towards the thing in its entirety rather than about me specifically. So I can just kind of like, I don't know. I don't know. I think if it must be insane to be someone like Joe, or I'm trying to think of something comparable to a musician like a huge band, someone like the Beatles or that, where the thing that everyone's speaking out about is your work completely. But I'm like such a small cog in such a big machine that it's I can just live my life.
Dude, the most complex machines fail if even the smallest piece doesn't.
That is true. You got to not drop.
Y'all remember Uncle Nasty said that, okay? Y'all don't let him discredit himself, okay? This man did an amazing job, all right? And obviously all you faces out there prove that, okay? So that was my 2 easy questions. He gave some deep answers to both of those, and I love it. All right, guys? So this is your opportunity. If you would like to ask him a question, the microphone is right there. Please don't hesitate. Let's get jiggy with it. Yeah, brother, kick it off. Come on.
And a Grateful Dead T-shirt. That's a first for me, I think.
What?
Nice.
It's a kick-ass band, man. Oh, by the way. Oh, right, sorry. As I was saying, it's a kick-ass band. I mean, don't diss.
I'm not dissing.
I'm messing with you. I'm messing with you, Wood. Sorry, had to do that. My questions are: what were some of the best locations to film at, and who are some of the cast members like Rob? I'm trying to remember the one who played Hagrid.
Robbie Coltrane.
Yeah, and who were the best cast members to get along with, like Robbie, Daniel?
Okay, so I think the question is where was your favorite places to film? What locations were your favorite places to film, and what cast members were the ones you got along with the best?
Yes, thank you.
Well, in terms of locations, in the second movie, there's a scene in a courtyard that we shot at Durham Cathedral, which is like one of the greatest cathedrals in Britain, and that's incredibly beautiful. So that was a cool place to go. But also not on location when we were in the studio. Like I'd say one of the best things about making those films is just being in that environment, because it wasn't like something like the Star Wars movies that were coming out about the same time, where it was mostly blue screen, where everything was put in afterwards. Like, they actually built almost everything that you see in the films, you know. So when we're in the Great Hall, you're there, and it looks just as real when you're, you know, when you're sitting there as it does on the screen. So that was pretty cool, seeing like the Chamber of Secrets. Sorry, I'm taking a lot of medication. Seeing the Chamber of Secrets and stuff like that was incredible. And then, well, I got on with, I mean, the person I spent most time with on set was Daniel, because most of my scenes were with him, and we always got on great. He was a sweet kid, and now he's a great man. And also Alan Rickman, who was a friend and kind of mentor of mine from long before we did the Potter films. So although I never worked directly with him on the Potter movies very much, we would hang out a bit, and he was always a great guy to have around. And Robbie, who, you know, unfortunately we lost last year, is the only member of the cast that lived close to me and I could actually visit while I was living in Glasgow, because he had a big house. Well, he had two big houses, one he kept his cars in the countryside just outside Glasgow. So yeah, we maintained a friendship over the years. And in fact, the last thing I filmed before COVID hit was an episode of a show for Sky called Urban Myths with Robbie. And I think I have the unasked for honor of being the last person ever to film a scene with him, actually. I don't think he filmed anything else after that. I could be wrong, but yeah, he was a great guy.
You did some shorter movies and some stuff here recently. What were those movies?
Some short movies recently? What are you?
Well, I guess Sorry. It was 2022.
Did I do a short film in 2022? My brain's gone. I did a short. I filmed.
Or was it? It might have been episode.
I did an episode of Good Omens, which is on now. On a
Yeah.
It's on. This is my agent. It's on Amazon Prime right now. Yeah, that just came out a few days ago. Good Omens, which we shot in 2021, I think.
Okay.
Which was ages ago, but it took ages for them to do the post production and stuff. And I was in a short in Switzerland called Action, which we filmed in 2020, I think. But I don't know what you're talking about.
Dude, I'm telling you right now, my year, it don't even feel like it's supposed to be 2023 right now.
Yeah, you know, like time doesn't work anymore because of the pandemic.
And you guys that are out there, if you have fans of his that are at home, if they go to the live that's on right now on YouTube, they can ask questions in the chat, and we will relay them as well. So if you guys have people that you know in your family or friends
dangerous.
That, live wherever, and I read these questions. Like when the Army esports team was up here, somebody asked a question, and like I read it 3 times, and I was like, I don't know what that means exactly. It was like acronyms, you know, and I'm like, I'm just gonna say it and hope for the best. Luckily, it was nothing bad. They knew what I was talking about.
Well, I do have one more question. But
Go ahead, bro.
How do you come, man?
all right, sorry. The question is about the flying scenes from both the first and second film.
Mm-hmm.
Were those interesting, and when you got knocked off by the rogue bludger, was that painful?
Was it painful?
Yeah.
Well,
I know I asked that.
Yes.
I can't.
Yes.
I can't. It would be remiss of me to not acknowledge all the wonderful things that stuntmen do for us at this point. Although I did get hurt myself a couple times making the film. Wrestling with the bludger was pretty painful because it wasn't some little foam thing. It was actually a solid cast iron ball. So spending all day filming, struggling with that hurt a lot. And then also, I was kind of the guinea pig for the broomstick stuff because I did it in the first movie before they'd figured out how to make that comfortable.
I imagine. Any of you dudes ever rode a horse? Same concept. Okay. Yeah, Brandon, can you help with the mic with her? So.
Oh, careful that. Oh, you're all right.
Oh, it's got
Hello.
some slack.
Hey.
My question is, what was it like filming with Daniel Radcliffe first movie versus farther down the line?
Well, when I went back, I mean, I only did the first two and then sort of the last one, but I didn't really film anything directly with Daniel in the last one.
Yeah.
I was around on set with him there was a couple of like kind of big crowd scenes where we were both kind of there, but I didn't work really closely with him. So, yeah, my entire experience of really properly working with Daniel was when he was a tiny kid. You know?
Yeah. Oh, by the way, when the first movie came out, I will say you have a small part, but my 11-year-old self thought you were very handsome back then.
Well, thank you very much.
So you're
He's still handsome?
yes, he's still handsome.
It's always past tense.
Oh,
He's
yes.
still handsome. Holy smokes.
Yes, he's still handsome.
There you go.
I wasn't going to admit that. But, yeah.
Oh, careful. You're all tangled up there.
Next participant.
Hey.
Yes, sir. Get close? Okay. So your fan club back here, we had one question for you. When you weren't filming the movies, did you guys play any jokes on each other in the back?
Good question.
Chris Columbus kind of used me to play a practical joke on everyone else, which was quite it was quite intense actually. Chris is known rightly as the nicest guy in the business. Yeah, it's quite for someone who is so adept at making these like massive blockbusters. He's an incredibly calm presence. So everyone's used to him just being the sort of the calm little center of the set and never has a bad word for anyone. And he kind of used that to terrify everybody. But one day he'd just been delivered these glasses for his approval by the props department. They were sugar glass, so they could break in like stunt scenes and stuff without doing any damage. And he said, "Sean, I want you to, when we finish the next take, I'm going to give you some direction, and then we'll do another take, and I want you to like ignore what I've said and just do it the same." I was like, "All right." And then he said, "And then I'm going to get really angry, and I'm going to throw this at your head." All right, cool. So that's exactly what we did. Did the scene. Sean, do this. Okay, sure. Filmed it again. Did it exactly the same. And he was like, "Am I talking to myself? I just told you that." And I was like, "Yeah, sorry, I just forgot, man." He got like angrier and angrier. Everyone's like, "This is weird. This isn't like him at all." And then he just freaked and threw this glass goblet that everyone else thought was an actual glass goblet. At which like missed my head by an inch and smashed on the blackboard behind it. I mean, he had everyone for a few seconds until he burst out laughing.
That's a good prank. I mean, that's like right up there with like the fork and the ketchup pack in your eyeball. Like that's up there. Okay, there we go. All right.
Oh, it's tall. Hi.
Hey.
Hope I worded this right, but how does it feel like emotionally to know that you are part of like something that's a part of a lot of people's childhoods? Like you're part of a lot of people's childhoods.
Yeah.
How does that feel?
You were on posters and you never even had to get dunked on.
Never even had to get dunked on.
Yeah, nobody dunked on you. They put you on posters.
Yeah, it's not something, even though it's now been obviously, most of my life has been, I think I was 17 when I started filming, and that was 23 years ago. So it's most of my life that I've had this involvement, but it's not something that I've ever got my head around. It's a very strange thing. It's like, there isn't a box for that in your psyche. Do you know what I mean? Like, most of the planet having seen this thing that you've done, and you haven't, like, having that kind of connection with it. Like, the only thing I can think of that's remotely comparable, being on the other side of it, is like Beatlemania. You know, not that I'm comparing Harry Potter with the Beatles, but in terms of like its scope and its longevity and how much of the world kind of, well, I suppose Star Wars is a similarly massive phenomenon, but yet, like, it's, yeah, it's still as weird as it was 20 years ago, trying to like get your head wrapped around it, because it's just such a, like, we're not built for that to be a thing, you know. There really isn't any way for your brain to kind of make space for that really fully, you know. So sometimes I think, like, yeah, it's still like I'll have just weird moments where it's like, that's really bizarre. And the fact that I can go literally, because again, it's a very small part of a very big thing. I'm not really famous anywhere, but I'm kind of famous everywhere. Like, I can literally go anywhere on the globe that there are human beings, and someone will know who I am because they've seen the thing that I'm in, and that's just really bizarre, you know?
Good question. Good question. Yes, a new participant.
I guess it kind of piggybacks on what she said. My question is, whenever, during the filming of the first one,
Mm-hmm.
was there any sense of the enormity of that? You know, given the impact it would have on culture, and like you said, how it impacted, you know, these people's lives. And Cashback was a fantastic movie.
Oh, thank you. In Cashback, I actually got a thing thrown at my head, because there's a scene where you see in slow motion a cup breaking on my face because my ex-girlfriend's thrown it at me. And we actually had to do it, and it was like, it was designed to break without like having sharp edges, but it was really hard. It wasn't designed to break on a person. Yeah, and there's a scene where you just kind of see me like that. It smashes on my head, and that sucked. But what was your first question? Shout it again.
Did everybody realize?
Oh, right, yeah. Did we realize? I mean, no. I don't think you could have realized, like, even if you were confident that it was going to be like a huge blockbuster, you couldn't possibly realize that it was going to have the impact that it's had, because nothing does really, that it was going to have this kind of longevity. I was really naive, and I'm very glad of that, because my kind of main scene in the first film, where I'm teaching them the rules of the game, that was the first thing I did. And it was a relatively small scene, like I hadn't been to the studio yet and seen the massive sets and stuff. It was just 2 actors out on location, as, you know, it was still a big set, but in relative terms, it was a small scene. And I really had no concept. I mean, I knew it was a popular children's book, but of course, prior to Harry Potter, the concept of a popular children's book was just not, like, it was orders of magnitude smaller.
Green eggs and ham, you know what I mean?
Yeah. You know, it's like the biggest cultural phenomenon in the world being a children's book was not a thing before. So I was like, it's a popular kids' book. It's, you know, it's going to be a fairly successful movie for kids. Like, that's, you know, fine. So I was able to go along and just kind of relax and do my job and kind of throw the scenes away, I think. And do them in quite a low-key, kind of natural way, which seemed to work. Like, people have responded to that really well, so it turns out to have been the right way to do it. Whereas if I had any sense of what a big deal it was, the weight of that to, like, try and make something incredible out of it, I think would have really messed me up. So I'm glad that I didn't. And then, no, the realization just kind of grew slowly through realizing, like, going on set and realizing, oh, this is a big project. And then the amount of media attention that we were getting when we hadn't even finished filming yet. And then going to the premiere in London, it was like 10,000 people in Leicester Square going crazy. And then I think when the first movie came out, it had the biggest opening weekend of any film in history, and was for a while, I can't remember what beat it now, but was for a while the biggest cinematic release ever in terms of, like, box office receipts. But even and then, like, movies do that, and then 10 years later, no one really cares. So even then, you had no sense of this is going to be every bit as big, if anything, even bigger, 20 years in the future. No, it's only now that we can appreciate that.
I'm gonna share a secret with you guys. You come on up, get ready to ask your question. I was 35 years old before I watched the very first Harry Potter movie. That's crazy, right? So let me tell you how crazy it is that I just saw him like 3 years ago as a little kid, and here he is with a beard sitting beside me on the stage. Like, I feel like if I would have watched it, you know, back when it first came out, it wouldn't be, but like, you're supposed to still be a kid, dude. Yes, question.
Are there any deleted scenes in the movies that you think they should have kept in?
Well, in the first movie, you mean of mine or just in general?
Any movies.
Okay. In the first movie, Rick Mail, do people here know who Rick Mail is? No? He did it, I thought he was big in the States as well, because he made a movie called Drop Dead Fred.
Ah.
Yeah. He is one of the great, like, comedy actors in Britain. He died a few years ago, unfortunately. But he played Peeves the Poltergeist. So they did actually make those scenes. And then for reasons that, it was only recently that somebody told me that the problem was that the CGI wasn't good enough yet at the time for what they were trying to do with Peeves. I don't know if that's true or not, but that's the reason that I heard. But that sucked, because I mean, like, Peeves, when it was only the books that were out, that was like one of the most beloved characters, was Peeves the Poltergeist. So now it's really bizarre that character doesn't make an appearance in the films, you know. And also Rick Mail, I'm sure he's perfect casting for it. I'm sure he would have absolutely nailed it. So that was a shame. But I guess, you know, they had their reasons for cutting it out. And then for me personally, the only thing I did that was cut out was, you know, the scene in the last book where, have you read the last book?
Not yet.
No. Spoilers then. There's a scene in the last book, which everyone else knows what I'm talking about, that involves Neville, Wood, and Colin Creevey, sort of. We did film a version of that, but that never made it into the cut, which was unfortunate, because that would have been sweet.
She has a question for you, too.
All right.
Thank you for your question.
Thank you.
Did you ever want to be in the Harry Potter's movie?
Did I ever want to be in Harry Potter?
Yeah.
Well, I have an unusual relationship with Harry Potter in that the first time I heard of Harry Potter was when I was asked to audition to be in the film. Because I was in that, like, I was too old to be the kind of target audience for the books when they came out by a few years, but also, you know, kids or anything. So I mean, I was 17 when I got asked to do the first film. I mean, I may have. I'd probably have seen a book display in a store about it, but just not really paid attention to, you know, the sort of the kids' books, because I was 16, 17. So the first time that I knew anything about what it was when I knew I was going to be auditioning for the film. So there was no, like, I wanted to be in it in the sense that I wanted to get the part, but there was no time of, like, knowing what it was and dreaming about being part of it, because I didn't know what it was. I always think, like I say, I'm really glad of that, because I got into it without understanding the situation and without feeling any of the pressure of that. But I always think it must have been really odd for people joining the cast, like several films in, who knew exactly how intensely huge it was. That must have been really scary.
Thank you for your question. Awesome. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it. Kay Hizzle, ask a question. And after you get done asking a question, tell everybody a joke. Look, she's part of our crew. I do an auction, like a live auction selling comic books, and she helps me do that. And I always mess with her on the live. But yes, ask your question, because I know you were looking forward to this, and I know you've got a question.
Yeah.
Yes, you have to go.
Everyone else has to go on the mic. What makes you so special? Come on.
Somebody had
She's
to do that to
milking it,
her.
isn't she?
Because if this panel would have went over and she didn't get up and ask him a question, she'd have been mad at herself.
What house are you in?
Gryffindor.
Outside of the movies too?
Yeah, obviously.
Oh, okay, that's not a question.
What else?
Brandon, she has another question up here up front. Well, when we
Hey,
get
whose
done
show
with,
is this?
yeah,
Telling
Okay.
jokes.
So I wanted to ask if you took anything from set after you got done with, all
No,
the
we
movies.
really couldn't. They were so strict about that. If
Okay.
to the point where if you
Just know
left.
certain actors sometimes take stuff from sets.
Yeah. Oh no, I have done from other sets, but
Yeah?
it was like if you left the set to go to the bathroom in the middle of a scene, someone from the props department would take your wand off you. And give
cool.
it back to you when you come back to the set. Like that's
Oh,
how
cool.
some of the kind of the biggest cast eventually accumulated a few things over the years, and the only person who just stole stuff brazenly that I know of was Alan Rickman.
Yeah.
Because he knew he was
Yeah.
unsackable, so he would take things and give them to
They-
friends' children or auction them for charity or stuff. And they
Yeah.
asked him to stop, and he just said, "No, I'm not going to stop.
I've heard that they
I'm
had
going
to
to
sew,
continue to steal
sew
things."
the robe pockets too, so people wouldn't just hide things in their pocket.
Huh?
I've heard that they've actually sewn the pockets shut on the robes. So
Oh,
people
really?
so people couldn't hide.
Well, I guess they
anything.
might have got to the point where extras were
Yeah.
pilfering things, and that would have been a reaction to that. I
Yeah.
don't think my pockets were sewn shut anymore.
Yeah.
No.
that's interesting.
Yeah.
That is interesting for sure. Thank you for your question. Hello there.
Hi. I'm
Hey.
gonna get, oh, that was really loud. I'm sorry. I'm gonna get a little technical. What was your acting training like before the movies? Three-parter. What was acting training like for you during the movies, and how did you continue your acting training after you were done with it?
I never had any. Well, there was no. I think there might have been on-set acting lessons for some of the younger kids later on, but no, I mean, I never trained formally. I started going to youth theatre when I was 8 and started working when I was 10. So by the time Harry Potter came along, I was quite experienced, just sort of by accident, just from having done it. So no, I mean, I'm a rank amateur. I've always just learned by doing it. And in Britain, there's not really the culture of continuing. Well, acting coaches in the sort of American model doesn't really exist at all in Britain. You get actors who went to drama school and spent 3 years full time doing it, and kind of trained that way. And then you get people like me who just sort of fell into it when they were young. But that culture of continually going back to your acting coach and kind of brushing up on things really doesn't exist among British actors at all. I was quite shocked when I first went to LA and people would. I tried it myself. People would go to an acting coach before an audition, kind of thing. I was like, all right, this is different. But yeah, we don't do that at all.
Are you an aspiring actress?
Yep.
Oh,
You have
okay.
2 degrees in acting. Did the first one not take? Or?
Yeah, I figured that question. I figured there was some undertones in there with that. Yeah, for sure. Are you a thespian?
Yes. Yeah, I haven't done any film work.
Okay.
Exclusively theater.
Right. Okay. And the theatre actors can keep going to coaches as well. Is that right? Yeah. Okay.
Friends who live in New York who are going back to voice coaches and things all the time.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Oh no. I mean, actors will use coaches for specific skills. Like if they've got a movie coming up where they need to do a different accent, they'll go to a dialect coach and stuff like that. That's taken off to some degree. But no, in Britain there's a much I guess there's a more intensive culture of training which I didn't take part in. And there's a more intensive culture of training, you know, to start with, like, you know, going to university, going to drama school, spending 3 years full time. But having done that, and even for people that haven't done that, there's much more of a culture of like, let's just do it and see what happens.
It's awesome. Thank you for your question.
Ooh, I got a joke for you.
Well, hold on. Let's wait till the panel's over with for jokes. Would anyone else like to ask him some questions?
There we go.
Hello.
Hey.
I'm kind of old, so I didn't get into Harry Potter until my daughter kind of got me into it, and so I just want to say, as an older man, to you, that you, even though your part wasn't Harry Potter or the bigger roles, your part still played an important part of that show.
Oh, thanks very much,
right.
I just
buddy.
wanted you to hear that, and just I've been sitting here waiting to think whether not to say or not. Plus, I'd like to know, at my age, we usually have blooper reels. Would you be?
You have what, sorry?
Blooper reels where you mess up a line, or you go walk and you stumble while taping. Would you like to see some of those from Harry Potter?
Oh, I wouldn't want to see anything that I'm in, no.
Well, the thing about it is,
I would love to see some that you're
It
in.
would show how much work y'all put into this piece of art.
I did see some bloopers from later on. Well, but I can't even remember where now, if that was on a DVD or if it was part of a presentation at a con or what. But yeah, no, I don't. I mean, it's so long ago now. I can't even remember if anything happened that would make a blooper reel when I was shooting. But.
What? I don't even know this. I should probably know this. As many people that I've talked to, the first movie, did they already move to digital with everything that they did with the filming, so like they could tell if they got a good shoot, or did you guys y'all had to shoot like 20, 30 shots?
I don't think Potter ever moved to digital. It was 35mm Panaflex cameras all the way.
Yeah, so y'all had to take like 20 takes of everything.
You were
guys did.
still, you know, checking the gate and all that. But yeah, I mean, well, you know, plenty of things that are on film don't do 20 takes, but Harry Potter did. I mean, yeah, I remember that. It was in some scenes where the amount of coverage that they got was crazy. Like, there were 4 cameras, and they're these, like, you know, hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of Panaflex 35mm cameras on everything. And then they would do like several setups for the same scene. So you're ending up with like the scene covered from 12 different angles. And they would do like loads of takes of like everything would be done until they were sure they had at least one absolutely perfect take from every angle. So like the editing process must have just been like endless. But
yeah.
Yeah, no, so no, I mean, it was celluloid. It was all old school filming, which is actually like, yeah, most of what I've done really. I've not done a lot of significant work on digital. Like you mentioned Cashback movie earlier on. That was into the age where most people would have been making digital. You would have been using digital on a film of that budget. But the director Sean Ellis his first career was as a photographer, a fashion photographer. So he was shooting on film just because he loves shooting on film. He's a kind of connoisseur of film. So yeah, most of my work, kind of major projects, have been on celluloid.
Awesome. That's awesome. I have another question for him. We have him for about 5 more minutes, really. So I have another question for him, unless one of you guys have a question for him.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
There we go.
All right. I knew that was going to do it.
Okay, so if Quidditch could be played in our world like it's played in the movies, would you play it and would you be good at it?
I wouldn't be good at it. Well, I'd say the most interesting part of it is the fact that you can fly. So if you could fly, I'd be up for that. The game would be like, do you know what I thought? I had an idea once. I thought, oh, that's it. I saw some footage of some people playing Quidditch actually in the sky, like some skydivers, where they went up and they all jumped at the same time and they did all this stuff and they were playing it. I was like, that's cool. We should get the original, like, Quidditch and Slytherin teams from the first movie together, and we should do that and like do it for charity, and we could raise £1 gazillion for Lumos or whatever. And I'm not going to name names, I'm not going to do that to them, but the first person who would have to be involved for that to happen that I asked was like, absolutely not. So that never happened.
I mean, I wouldn't have done it. Not happening. Anybody else have a question? All right, brother.
Oh, I have one. Like from all the actors that you worked with on that, who are you still the closest to?
Well, the person from, well, I mean, I used to go out and visit Robbie, as I say, while I still could. The person that I became closest buddies with from who I met on Potter, funny enough, wasn't someone that I ever worked with. It was someone I just kind of bumped into on set one day and then kept bumping into auditions and things. Was Christian Coulson, who played Tom Riddle in the second film. And we became quite close buddies. And then I didn't see him for years because he moved to America, where I wasn't going for a long time. But yeah, no, it was funny because we weren't ever in the same scenes or anything, but we kept in touch and used to hang out with him in London quite a bit. And then, I mean, my closest friend who's in Harry Potter was Alan Rickman, but we didn't meet on Harry Potter. We'd already been friends and colleagues for a long time at that point.
Awesome. Anyone else, guys? All right, I'm gonna ask this last question, and then we're gonna have to give him a round of applause. Do you have a favorite con moment from going to these and doing these where you just had that one specific thing that like sticks with you in your memories, where you met a fan or you had a moment? I ask that.
Yes,
that is a hard question, but I ask everybody.
It is, because it's I've been doing a few for a few years and I have a slow brain. But I had dinner with RoboCop in Germany. I went to German Comic Con in Dortmund and sat down for dinner. Like a bunch of the cast that were there all had a big dinner together in the hotel. Because we get stranded in the hotel actually because it was a blizzard. So all these actors had their flights were cancelled. They had nothing to do but sit in this like business hotel on the outskirts of Dortmund, Germany. And I sat down, and Peter Weller, great actor director, the original RoboCop, sat opposite me, and we got on like a house on fire. And you know, Peter Weller, as well as being a great TV director and a great actor and RoboCop, has a PhD in Renaissance art history from Cambridge University.
Wow. That's awesome.
So we were talking about that.
Listen, I'm so glad I asked that question, because that's not what I've, that highlight is, eating dinner with RoboCop. That's what's up. All right, guys, Sean Biggerstaff, everybody. Y'all give it up for him. Oliver Wood.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, brother. I got some for you, too.